doing the top 6 selling beers in the United States as of 2019. I don't want to call this the Shitty Beers episode, but I am fully anticipating it.
We're going to be starting with number 6, which is Corona Extra.
Corona has to be with a lime. We're going to taste test it once without and then once with. We're going to start with without.
Right away, you can see how carbonated that is. I've had this one sitting here for a second.
No head to it.
No head, but there's still so many bubbles. Like, it looks like soda. Yeah,
So there's a bumble that will make an appearance a few times in this video. So that's what we're looking at, just to let you know. Sorry for this interruption. Please keep your arms and legs inside the review at all times. God bless America.
In researching for this video, none of these companies want to say what any of these beers taste like. They want to tell you how few calories they are, and that's about it.
They want to tell you it'll make you feel good.
It came from Mexico in 1981, but it is the top imported beer to the U.S. of anywhere.
Wow.
It's a pale lager. I think all of these are light lagers. So some of the notes that it said to look for were fruity honey aromas, touch of malt, crisp, clean, and well-balanced between hops and malts.
I don't smell
anything.
So
it smells like beer, so let's just drink it. This is absolutely the most I've ever thought about drinking a beer like this.
Yeah, you think of these more commercially made ones, and you're very much like, I'm just going to drink fast.
I'm just going to drink.
Yeah, I don't really
so
taste
carbonated.
anything. Bubbly, very bubbly.
There is actually, I get kind of the fruity honey if it was like 8 miles away.
I'm getting a bit of hoppiness, like if you took an IPA and dunked it in seltzer water.
Corona Extra, a hop in seltzer water. It's the new health craze.
Not even an IPA, just a hop.
Just a hop in seltzer water. Oh, I gotta leave some with the lime.
It's very wet.
Kind of sits there.
Lime time!
Lime time!
So, Corona is obviously known as, like, you're supposed to drink it with lime. So now we've added the lime.
It brings out, like, salty smell to it. It really does so much for that beer.
It does. Lime is an overpowering flavor on its own. Now it's turned it into an alcoholic
limeade.
What I find surprising is that we just talked about the wet finish and how it kind of lingers too long. The lime kind of takes that out.
It kind of cuts it.
With lime, not bad. With lime, it's pretty good. We're jumping on board with number 5. Michelob Ultra.
In the last video, we actually talked about how we were going to have to spend a shit ton of money buying these beers because they don't sell them in 1 cans at a time. They do sell them in 1 can.
They sell them in
large can.
1 2 can at a time.
So this is a light lager. It's very low carb. It was originally made for Atkins dieters. It gets its lower carbs from special trace of grains and extended mashing process. So they just beat the shit out of this until it's low carb. What I found funny about Michelob is when it was first introduced, like the original Michelob, not the Ultra, it was known as the draft beer for connoisseurs.
Ooh.
That reputation has faltered somewhat. Super bubbly. It looks exactly like the last one, except like clearer.
It's paler.
So the notes for this are grainy corn-like aroma, high carbonation, watery body, crisp, dry, no strong flavors. According to reviewers. They don't say that on their site. They don't say this has no flavor.
They were very hush-hush about what kind of flavors they advertised.
The last one, I could just smell sort of beer. This one, it's like almost smells like water. Yeah. But I do get a little bit of the corn. So now we drink.
It's not as bubbly as you would think.
It doesn't taste like anything.
I'm kind of getting a bit of sweetness.
This tastes like 1 step towards beer from like an alcoholic seltzer.
It's dry, it's crisp, it's got no body, no discerning flavor in any direction. I like it better than the previous one.
I'm changing my mind on this.
It's not bad. It's for what it is.
If you want to just drink and you want to have alcoholic water.
Yeah.
Michelob Ultra. How much you want to get drunk versus not taste your beer?
Maybe that becomes a theme of the episode. We will see.
This is turning out to be just as terrible as I'd hoped. Number 4 is Bud Heavy. Bud Diesel. The best-selling full-strength beer in the United States. Listed as a premium lager, so maybe this will be a better experience than the other ones. But we'll see. It is brewed in a process called krausening. It's carbonated with actively fermenting beer. So that shortens the carbonation process and helps remove off flavors. So there should be only on flavors in this beer.
What defines an off flavor versus an on flavor? At the bottom of the pot still, just a
There's
light
little
switch. And if they flip it up, it's on. Oh, okay. Why would you turn that off?
So you can turn it back on again.
Why would you want to raise your cholesterol?
So I can lower it.
Subtle aromas of malt and noble hops, traces of citrus and fruit. Says it has a wonderful finish.
We'll be the judge of that.
This is the only website that actually gave real notes about its beer.
I appreciate that. So right off the bat, it looks better.
It still has foam. Look at it. It's like this big, but it still has foam.
It's got a little bit of head retention, a little bit of lacing. It actually has a smell to it. I get a little bit of an orange.
It smells like biscuits to me. Like cookie kind of biscuits. I have a feeling because this is a heavy, it's the only one that's going to really smell like anything.
It's going to have some flavor, hopefully.
All right, let's go.
Jump in.
Let's go. You know?
It's pretty bready.
Pretty. Last time I had it, I was like Bud heavy. But now after those other two, this is not bad.
A lot of maltiness to it. It's got a very wet finish. Really? I'm not a fan. I do not like it.
No, you really don't like it?
No.
I actually like this a lot more than I remember liking it the last time. Do you detect a wonderful finish?
If you liked wet finishes, I could see people really liking this because that's the only thing I don't like about it.
I think that's the thing I like the best about this is the finish. It lingers just a little bit, that it doesn't taste watery, but then it's gone. It's perfect for me. Well, you drank all of yours. It couldn't have been that bad.
I'm not going to waste it. It's still beer, damn it.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Jumping to number 3.
We are halfway through.
Miller Lite.
This is the one that I'm looking forward to the least because I know I don't like this. I'm willing to give it another chance. Maybe I'll feel differently, but I kind of tend to doubt it. A lot of head. The foam is rocky. It's starting off well. It's kind of a more amber hue. They list themselves as the original light beer, which for a couple of reasons is not really true. Partly because this was originally based on a beer from the Rheingold Brewing Company. Miller bought them and reformulated it and rebranded it in 1972. So it's kind of the original light beer. It's a Pilsner. I think this is the only non-lager. Some notes for this: medium malt and hop aroma, light to medium body, and a crisp, clean finish. Apparently we're very one-dimensional as beer drinkers in America. We just want something we can do in a beer bong.
Just the idea of drinking fast.
I'm go fast.
So I'm not getting any aroma.
Very much like the Corona where it just smelled like beer. Oh. Yeah, don't like Miller. It tastes like a trash can.
It's got a strange aftertaste. Like at first it had me fooled. I almost was like about to say I really liked it.
See, to me, it's the opposite. After it kind of goes away, it's fine. It just tastes like every other light beer. But that first taste, ugh.
It tastes like all the bad parts of an IPA. If you had none of the redeeming qualities of an IPA, that's what this is.
It is, in fact, a Pilsner. A fine Pilsner. Right. I call bullshit. Bullshit.
So, because it's been staring me in the face, and for the first time I feel like I need it, I've had a third lime just hanging out.
You're going to put it in the Miller Lite?
I'm going to put it in the Miller. And
well, it couldn't make it any worse. So it's originally used as a disinfectant for things. So maybe it'll disinfect the trash. Yeah?
Try it. It could just be overpowering it, and now it just tastes like lime.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Isn't it so much better?
Amazing!
All right. Pro tip for those of you at home, regardless of the beer, if you have beer you don't like, put limes in it. Wow, I can't believe it.
I can't get over this.
I'll start.
No!
You actually want to finish that?
I am disturbed by the fact that I just said that. You just stopped me from
taking a Miller Lite away from you.
I am perplexed. I'm just going to put lime on all my life problems. Depression? Lime. Financial troubles? Lime.
Even a broken marriage shown to be better than a placebo. So now we're moving on to number 2, Coors Light.
This is my favorite. This is the one I was looking forward to the most.
Coors. No head. Like, we couldn't even talk about it. It's already gone.
So Miller always markets itself as the original light beer. So it's kind of bullshit because, first of all, it wasn't really Miller Lite when it started. And secondly, Coors Light was made in the 40s. Now, it was a lighter, lower calorie beer that's not really what this is anymore.
Okay.
And they discontinued it at the start of World War II. After Miller Lite came out as light beer, they reintroduced this like in 78. But technically, that was the first thing that was marketed as light beer, was Coors Light.
Going into this, I did expect this to be my favorite of these 6. I will say that.
Mild carbonation, banana notes, clean mineral water. Some people say it's hoppy-ish, and light to medium body.
Banana notes. Interesting. Let's give it a sniff.
I don't smell anything.
I don't smell anything. It's really clear, really bubbly, really pale. I appreciate this as being part of this grouping. This has a nice like middle point where it's got a little bit of flavor, a decent amount of carbonation, but not too much, a nice, clean, crisp finish.
I'm not going to lie. I get the banana notes a little bit now.
Really?
Try to swig it like on the back of your tongue.
Wow. Yeah, you're right.
I love that they did this whole thing of when the mountains turn blue on the can.
I love that.
It's as cold as the Rockies. That was fucking genius.
That was so cool. So I'm going to say it. You know what? That's good beer.
Yeah!
We had one, at least. I will say that's good beer. It's the right balance of crisp, refreshing, not too dry, not too wet, a good bubbliness. Most of the rest of them are way too carbonated. This one, it's a good balance, and I like it a lot. I walked into this liking it less than I do now, and I appreciate it more. I'm still going to buy Busch Light more than anything.
And for #1 selling beer in America, Bud Light.
Bud Light. Surprising absolutely no one.
It is actually 2-1 the best-selling beer in America.
That is a good amount of head.
So this is a light lager. Despite being the #1 best-selling beer, it has an awful rating of 45 out of 100 from Beer Advocate. I feel like the problem with people evaluating beers like this, which is what I feel like we've tried to avoid, is you cannot evaluate this on the same level that you would a more full-flavored beer. It actually needs to not have a whole lot of depth.
It needs to be super approachable.
So Bud Light uses 4 ingredients: hops, barley, water, and rice. Notes for this: high carbonation, clean and dry finish. We'll see if it has a dry finish. Honey and corn hints, and malty and rice. Nobody really knows. A lot of people just calling this beer shitty.
Smell-wise, I'm getting absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Not even beer. I'm getting nothing.
Yeah, it literally doesn't smell like anything. And we sip.
I get like a corn kind of a
Yeah, I get a little bit of the corn,
a corn note, yeah.
which is
I
weird
do get
because
that.
there's no corn in it. Little bit of malty.
It very much is just so nothing.
I think it's interesting to compare this to Michelob Ultra, which to me was like water, like literally didn't taste like anything, to this, which has a flavor, but it's like the most nondescript beer flavor ever. The closest to a flavor I could get would be malty, but it's like malty turned down to like a 1. No hoppiness.
The thing I find the most surprising is this has a very dry finish, and Budweiser is probably the wettest. I don't hate this as much as I thought I would.
I'm not usually a big Bud Light fan, but this is good. I think really trying to appreciate the very scant flavors that are in it, I can see why it's so popular.
That's kind of the thing about this episode, and kind of the problem we knew going in, was this is going to be the inoffensive, pretty similar episode. We're not going to find a whole lot of difference in any of these. But tasting them all in a row kind of was nice, so you could feel those differences.
So we're going to have a really quick wrap-up since there was not a whole lot to any of these beers to really expand on.
Yeah. So we'll start with least favorite.
So my least favorite, unsurprisingly, was Miller Lite, which I knew I didn't like. It's got that weird trash can flavor to me.
My least favorite was also the Miller Lite. I don't see why it sells, honestly. Most favorite.
I fucking love Coors Light. It is the perfect balance of flavor and drinkability.
My favorite is also the Coors Light. Going into this, I wasn't sure, and now it's been confirmed. It really is a good balance of all these things that it's trying to do and be decently flavorful.
And just for the record, we are not sponsored by Coors Light yet.
Oh. Looking at you, Coors Light. Ball's in your court. The reason we saved this one for last is I think this will be the most interesting one is biggest surprise of these 6.
Miller Lite with the lime. If we can count that as a separate thing, So if we're not counting Miller Lite with lime, my biggest surprise was definitely Bud Heavy, because I've tried it before and I was always like, this is a lot of body to this. But now that I'm like really trying to appreciate the flavors, and maybe it's just because it was one of the few heavy beers that we tried, but I really liked the flavor. It was flavorful without being obnoxiously heavy.
My biggest surprise, obviously Miller Lite with a lime being actually good, if we can't count that. Then my biggest surprise was Michelob Ultra, because it honestly just drinks like slightly worse Coors. It's basically just Coors that is a little old. I had no expectation, and it managed to actually impress me a little bit.
So now we are going to go and drink the rest of these giant cans.
Yeah, we are. Daylight is waning, and we've got beers to drink. So I'm Corey.
I'm Roxy.
And we're That's Good Beer.
Say I hope you're feeling